Hello. Welcome to Revelator Alf. It's a radio podcast thing, don't you know? It's all about motorcycles, motorcycle sports, life, love, and taxes, or death and taxes. It's about anything, but I suppose primarily talking about motorcycles and the motorcycle news and biking news and what's going on in the world. So I've got the chat open. It's going over to YouTube and also to Twitch. So whoever's watching now or watching a recap later, hello, welcome, thanks for joining. You can do all the support. You can go onto all the socials as well and see all the links for all the blog pages, the blogs and the articles that are coming out of the website, revelatoralf.com. So daily blog posts there, news items and stories of new motorcycles or industry news or stuff that's just going on in the motorcycling world that might be of interest to you, topical discussion points as well. And that's expanding all the time. So get over to revelatoralf.com, the website. I'm also looking into trying to get the website recognized by news agencies or global news agencies as well to raise the profile of that. There are some stipulations, but we're kind of looking at, I'm looking into that right now. But as I say, you can just go there, read up on some of the articles. A lot of the articles there won't be featured on the website. They won't be featured on the YouTube channel. They won't be featured in the live shows, but other stories will. So it's kind of a mixture of stories there as well. So if you're interested in just reading or as opposed to listening, go over there as well. Lots of information there as well. And got to see a couple of people coming into the chat right now and are watching. Hello, Jerry. Good morning to you. Was it good afternoon? No, it's still good morning here as well. You can obviously subscribe and support the channel in any way you want, and the website as well. There's a PayPal and Patreon as well, so I will be adding more content to the Patreon pages as well, as and when. But as I say, there's lots of stories. There's no rush today. I'm just going to take a gradual look at the news as it's coming through, but there's just 1 second. There we go. Yeah, so let me just say, you got the chat up there. Jerry, yes, it's good afternoon there. Good afternoon out over that way, aren't you? Over that way. So it's a good afternoon, and I hope you wherever you are, enjoy. Right, hold on, let me just put this back on here. So there's lots of stories come out over the weekend. I hope you've all had a good weekend. What have you been up to? I was working on the Saturday, so then I had to ride back, and then the Sunday, this is yesterday. I'm kind of totally lost track of my days. Yesterday I was supposed to go to the Motorcycle Live show here in the UK. The Motorcycle Live show in London. I already got the tickets and everything. I was all primed to go. I was going to get up nice and early and get on the bike and go. And then at the 11th hour, as it were, all my plans completely changed. And it was a toss-up between going and walking around and possibly being a little bit bored around a motorcycle show. Which I kind of featured all the stories anyway, so there was going to be nothing new, but it would, I was always going to be interested. Or I've got to say, going to spend the day with my family by the beach in the Breaking Bad camper. So guess what? That's what I did. Yeah, Dave B, hello, good morning. Yeah, you didn't miss much. I didn't think I did. And do you know what? The reason why I was a little bit I'm not bothered whether I go or not, and it's nothing against the show, because actually I do enjoy the shows from previous years. I think I finally reached the end of my tether with the Motorcycle Live show back in November, and I just went up there and I kind of walked around. I was feeling really not that I wasn't impressed. I was kind of indifferent to the whole thing, and I think I felt myself like this last year at the London Motorcycle Show. I was a little bit indifferent to it, And I wasn't making content. It wasn't about making content or anything like that. I wasn't really that interested in that kind of making that kind of content anymore for the YouTube channel. Although in previous years I'd made a lot for the YouTube channel, but I also made a lot for the website as well. So it wasn't that. It wasn't that I wasn't making content. That's why I wasn't bothered. It was just that I thought, I'd rather go off and be by the beach. So I went off to Hayling Island, a big biking attraction place, and but I didn't go on my bike because I had to take my dog with me and the tribe. So we went out in the Breaking Bad camper, which is really nice. Yeah, thought you was at the Morris. Yeah, thought you was at the footy. No, unfortunately not. So I missed yesterday's game, but that's it. Jay, yeah, seen some blogs on it. Didn't seem that exciting. Well, there you go. It. Really depends what you want to read, then, doesn't it? It's it's not always going to be interesting to everybody, is it? That I assume you're talking about my website. Yeah, again. It's not there for you. You either do or you don't. You either want to read it or you don't. All I'm saying is it's up to you whether you want to read it. Dave B, you wouldn't believe how few bikes were on the Harley stand. That wouldn't surprise me. Actually, interestingly, Harley, I've mentioned this before, but when the news came out, maybe about a month ago, maybe a bit more, that Harley Davidson were actually going to be at the London Motorcycle Show, because they hadn't been there in the last previous years. I was like, oh wow, this is interesting. There's, what they're going to do there, and but for you to say that there weren't that many bikes there, it's just like, yeah, it's a little bit, I mean, I would have been the only reason I was really interested to go, and purely selfishly, because I'm going to Indian tomorrow to test ride an FTR, and this is in London, and I was just wondering what kind of presence Indian had, because in my opinion, Indian have been putting on better displays. And it's had a better vibe at the bike shows here in the UK. This is for the last 2 or 3 years, couple of years, maybe not 3 years, but a couple of years. Debbie, I had a caravan on Hayling for 17 years. Oh right, oh really? Oh, did you really? Right, yeah, there you go. Yeah, nice part of the world. So I haven't been there for a while actually. So it was nice. I've been down there on the bikes a few times. Back in the day, but I seem to recall going there with my family a few years ago, but I couldn't really remember going there. But when I got there, I thought, oh no, we have been here all together. But there we go. Dave B, yeah, much more than Harley. Yeah, it's a Harley. It's just a bit of a funny thing, with the shows, especially the London Motorcycle Show. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they didn't seem to be that enthusiastic about going there. Maybe it's because they don't feel that the London show really attracts the kind of riders that would ride Harleys. I don't know. And they had different things there at the show this year. They're like the sprinting in the indoor sprint, which look, I don't know. Look, the thing is, I saw it on. I saw some video clips of it. And you're getting super bikes to rev up on a start line, and you're launching, or you're trying to do a launch on these bikes, right? So they're trying to do a launch, and they're not even doing a full launch. They're not doing a full, starting ready to go, and boom, and off the line they go. Because as soon as they let out the clutch, they're having to pull it back in and go in on the brakes. I just thought it was a bit. It was a nice little addition, but let us know if you were there, Dave, if you were there as well, if they had the indoor circuit racing. I thought that was much more a better spectacle, where they had racing stars on sort of low-powered bikes or pit bikes and stuff like that. I quite enjoyed that from the past, but this, the strip, I thought it was all right. I mean, but there we go. Raymond Ho, good morning. Hi, just picked up my new Road King off on tour to Europe soon. Lovely, beautiful. Finally put my GS 1250 to rest. Oh, right, okay. And begin a new and fun time in my long motorcycle life. Keep up the good work. Have used your tips. Oh, great, right, great. Well, enjoy Road King. Great bike, great touring bike. I mean, if it was if there was a Harley Davidson Tourer that I would go for, I think I would lean towards a Road King. I've got to say, I would lean towards that. Instead of having the big, batwing fairing or the shark nose fairing of the Street Glide or the Road Glide. Just a personal preference, that's it. I mean, but there we go. But GS 1250, decent bike, very decent bike. Be interesting to see how you get on in terms of touring capability with your Road King as opposed to your GS. But yeah, interesting. Well, good luck with that as well. There's a big bike meeting every week in the summer on Hailing. That's right, yeah. Hundreds of bike. They meet at the inn on the beach. Yes. There are some nice places around there, I've got to say. Just coming back over the, I don't know what you call it, the main road into Hailing Island, the one that goes over the levee. It's not a levee, it's a low bridge, isn't it? That goes over from the mainland over to the island. There's a couple of pubs there. They look really nice. Just to sort of right by there's a black little lighthouse, if you know what I'm talking about. There we go. Only the drag strip. Yeah, I booked a test ride on the Road King at the show. Oh, okay. Yeah. Nice. They'd be the bridge. No, it wasn't called the bridge. It was called. Well, you know what it is. Sorry, I don't know what it's called. Whatever you would call it. Is it a bridge? It is a raised bridge, isn't it? Raised roadway. Is it? I don't know. Dave, you obviously know better than me. I don't know what it's called. What is it called? It's not a levee. No, of course that's not a levee. A raised road. There we go. Whatever. Oh, you're going to Reading, are you? Wow. Well, okay. Interesting. Well, good luck with that. But yeah, I'm sure they got loads. I haven't been down there in a long while actually. So it's not the kind of place that I tend to go anymore. I mean, every now and again, if I'm riding by, into or any dealership, this is not just a Harley dealership. I will pop in and see what they have, a little walk around and stuff. I think I've always said this, out of the dealerships, the Harley Davidson ones, and Triumph as well, and BMW seemed possibly Indian, but I haven't been to an Indian one that I was impressed with so far. I've only been to one, in all fairness. But the Triumph, BMW, and Harley Davidson do the kind of experience a lot better than other dealerships where you just go in and look at bikes. There we go. Guildford sucks. So many people have told me this. So many people have had not good words to say. However, I hear very good words repeated time and time again about Sykes down in Lewes. Very, very good. Great. I haven't had any dealings with them personally, but I just hear great things. I hear great things about Cheltenham as well, for your information. But anyway, so that's that. Yeah, so it's a bit of an interesting one when it comes to popping into dealerships these days. I don't tend to make a beeline for those anymore. I tend to just obviously do a lot of mine online or direct communication with via press releases and stuff like that. I am in conversations with a few companies right now for to try out different products and to also maybe feature a few products and everything. And as I always say, it's I only feature stuff on the website or products on the channel or bikes on the channel, whatever that I'm personally interested in for a start, and I think that add value or might be interesting for people to listen about. And it's never about a brand deal, as it were. It's not about that for me. Yes, if those come along, but it has to meet all the other criteria as well. Jerry Powell, are you planning any big trips this year? Myself personally, yeah, I've got a few possibly later in the year, and I've got a few ideas for endurance rides as well. I mean, I tend to like I don't tend to like touring so much these days on bikes. In terms of that, if I do, it's not so much that I I advertise it. I'll go away for a few days here and there, but not the grand tour, as it were. I was supposed to go to the US pre-COVID, as it were, and do I had 2 or 3 planned rides over there, but that's all died now, and I may resurrect them at some point, but I had particular planned rides. So the ones I'll be doing this year are either keep to myself, or won't, I'll just go off and do my thing, or I will there will be endurance rides that I will feature on the channel. So I haven't actually done that, but I'm not doing any kind of international ride this year. Not yet. Not that I've planned yet. I have considered going riding down to Italy and places like that. But it may be part of an endurance ride, like a London to Rome type thing. See how fast I could do that. Non-stop, just a non-stop ride to London to Rome, which has always been one of my things to do, and then just hang around in Italy for a little bit, and then sort of take a slow ride back up to the UK. I said, but I haven't actually planned anything like that, so we'll see how it goes. I might just go off in the Breaking Bad camper for a couple of weeks. I don't, at this stage, we have been talking about holidays, myself and she who must be obeyed, and we'll see what I get up to as well. I mean, I actually may be doing. I am kind of looking into holiday destination and motorcycle riding when I get there. So it's not a tour, but it's kind of mixing up the two, if you know what I mean. I get the bike when I'm at the other end, as it were. So I am looking at that kind of content. I am looking at that kind of riding, possibly later in the year. As I say, nothing's planned. Nothing is planned this year. Right. What should we do? What should we talk about? There have been lots and lots of stories coming out. I've noticed this morning when I've been doing some research. I've been looking all weekend at stories, and I thought I'd just do a live show today and just talk about some different stories. And the title of this live show is, it's biker gangs and motorcycle clubs, biker gangs, all this sort of stuff, and how it's being reported more so, and the kind of the news that comes up. There we go. The news that comes up from sources, and then you read the article and you think, well, what's all this about? And is this news? Is this fake news? Is this actual decent reporting, or is it just very, very weak reporting? And I've got to say, a lot of this for me is just weak reporting. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong or right. It's just weak reporting. Dave B, Tommy Fury or Jake Paul? Well, I could talk for hours for this, because if you watch my channel, I'm very much into my sports, of course. Football, West Ham, of course. Football in general, I love any kind of football, whether it's my team or any other team, or international football type thing. But boxing, or I'd say, let me go back. Combat sports I really like, but boxing is my number one that I really enjoy watching, and really sort of enjoy watching from a technical point of view, or just looking at it and analysing it and seeing what's what. But to answer your question very, very succinctly, Tommy Fury will win that. If he doesn't, there's an issue. There's an issue with Tommy Fury, but he will win that. And I've just looked at the footage of both of them so far. There's no way. But the problem is, okay, I could start off on a big tangent here. The problem is, if you look at those two fighters, they're both novices. Jake Paul thinks he's got delusions of grandeur, thinking he's going to be a world champion in the next year or so. The WBC have put flames on this, and they're going to give them both a ranking, or give whoever wins a ranking, which is just ridiculous. They both had limited fights, 6 and 8 fights or some pro fight, or not even pro fights with Jake Paul. Fury's only had 8 fights. He's 8-0. But he's been fighting boxers. So I was listening to a True Geordie podcast the other day, and he was basically saying that Tommy Fury, one of the problems with Tommy Fury is that he's only fought bums, as the Americans like to call. Yeah, but the problem is they're still pro fighters, and they're still professional boxers. So if you get into a ring, I use this analogy, right? Right? A few years ago, well, it was quite a few years ago now. I was on a racetrack. I took my bike up to there, and I actually ended up using this outfit's bikes for the day, like a track day type thing, right? But it was a special invitational day. Anyway, so I was on the track, all the different sessions throughout the day, and I was on the track, and you know what it's like. You go into these things and you think, I'm all right. I can handle myself. I've been riding for 40 years, don't you know? I've ridden sports bikes. I've ridden on the track. So you kind of have this in your own echo chamber, in your own bubble. And this is where I see the likes of Jake Paul. He's in his own echo chamber. He's got lots of people reinforcing him, saying you're amazing, you're great. You got all these kids on YouTube saying, oh yeah, you're great, you're this, and it's almost like it feeds into this. The buzzword of the day is narcissism, right? A narcissistic trait where you're living in this world, and anybody who even suggests that you're not right is wrong, and it's really bad. And the problem is, on YouTube especially, but on TikTok and everything, there is this kind of world, of this sub-world of people sort of hating you or reinforcing you. But especially if you get really, really big and popular as they have, and especially if you're of that personality type who is just doing outlandish things, let's say, or saying outlandish things just for a reaction, then you know that there's something not quite right here in terms of reality from fiction. So they're living in that world. So I remember I was on this track, and you could say I was living in that world. At the time I was thinking, I'm pretty good, I could handle myself. I was on the track, right? And there were pro racers. I forgot to say there were pro racers at this track day, at this invitational day, right? And I thought, oh wow, yeah, let's get on the track with these guys. And they came in on the track, on the sessions that we were in, and they were mixing it up through the different levels. But essentially, they weren't going on the novices races. They were coming into the higher classes, right, in the mid range or the higher classes. Anyway, so they come up with us. And I thought, yeah, I could do it. Yeah, they'd be all right. But you see how good they are. I knew I was never going to be able to match them. I'm not that deluded, right? But I thought, I could hold my own, right? Okay. Let me just say this quite categorically. Somebody who thinks they're good, as opposed to somebody who is good, is miles apart. Somebody who thinks they're great and somebody who actually is great is even further. But somebody who thinks they're great and somebody who is elite, right? And when we're talking about pro racers at the very highest level, let's say Formula One, MotoGP, World Superbikes, even if a racer finishes last, right, in that race, they are still absolutely elite. So when you compare that racer with somebody who's, of not the same level, it's easy to spot the difference. And that's what it was in that day. I'm a nobody, right? But it's night and day what they were doing. I was thinking, how can they do it? How are they doing that? And I'm just pushing as fast as I can. And they're just coming on the inside, cutting down, overtaking each other. Twice my speed, it appeared. And I was just going, how's that go? How's that work? So this is what I see things in like the boxing world when I see the fighting world especially, where you see that while they're both novices in terms of pro boxing here I'm talking about, and this is just not my opinion, this is like normal opinion, right, or standard opinion from professionals. You've got somebody in Jake Paul who you watch his fighting and it's just technically really, really poor, really, really poor. but because they're both novices, if they get caught with a big punch, either way, you know what it's like. Either way could go down. So there we go. Right, yeah. Sorry, I went off on a big tangent there. But for me, in terms of boxing ability, so far, whilst they're still novices, Tommy Fury wins. But there we go. But I mean, so it's just one of those things. I just want to think, and as I say, and I was on if I could just relate it to motorcycling, when I was on a track, and you think, well, you can ride, and then you think, no, you can't. No, you can't. And it is very humbling. It's a good lesson to learn for anybody, to be humbled in any way. It's a great lesson, and I would say anybody should have a humbling experience. The problem is that not many people these days are being humbled properly, and the likes of me, the people like me who are on, YouTube and Twitch and Instagram and TikTok and all this sort of stuff. The problem is you put content out there, and whilst we get the hate, and we do get the hate, and people attack us and all that sort of stuff, it's very rare that, because it's like an online world, and people, you're not seeing people in real life, as it were. You're not seeing people face to face. Now, if you're just talking normally, let's say, hopefully you understand that I'm just talking normally. I'm not saying anything outlandish. I'm just having a conversation with you, or having a conversation to the camera, but you know what I mean. I'm just talking. So there's nothing to be humbled about. But if I'm just saying stupid things and outrageous things, and saying I'm going to be the next world MotoGP champion, at some point somebody's going to say, okay, call me out. Okay, let's get to a track. Let's see how good you are. And you go, and you'll be humbled straight away. So that's what I mean. There we go. Right, let me just, I've missed a few of the messages here. Sorry. Let me just get onto that. There we go. So I've just, on my screen here, it doesn't say there. Yeah, really, Tommy, you hope Tommy wins as well. I think the problem is, I was listening to, was it Richie Woodall the other day, or somebody, I can't remember who it was. No, it might have been Spencer on Talk Sport, and he was talking about it. And this is the way I feel about this as well, about the hype that happens closer to an event. Everything's built up. And one thing I've never liked about any kind of sporting activity, or certainly in boxing, which I absolutely detest, is one thing I really hate. I hate the trash talk. I absolutely hate it. I just think it's totally unnecessary, and I just think it's wrong. Personally, I just think, well, you're actually detracting away from the sport itself. Let's just get to the sport. Let's just get to the fighting qualities, and let's just say, we understand these are two warriors going into the ring, and they might hate each other. But, just park all that sort of stuff. We don't need to hear it, right? But they were basically talking about the hype building up to it. And they were saying how the hype warps your reasoning and your thinking as observers, as spectators, as fans, right? And they're talking about, and I've always said this, I've repeated this time and time again, when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather, there's this building anticipation that Floyd Mayweather was going to lose to Conor McGregor. And I was saying, almost like the lone voice in the house, I was saying, no chance. No chance. No way. No way. Even though Conor McGregor is a great, great fighter, we're not talking about fighting. We're talking about boxing rules. And this is exactly the same thing, right? People are building up Jake Paul to be this, and I'm not saying he can't win, because there's always a chance for anybody, but it's a very small chance. It's a very small chance. There is never a no chance, but it's always a small chance. But there we go. And I think people get carried away with this hype, And the problem is, you go on things like YouTube and and places like that, where people are trying to build this stuff up or have their say and have this. I put a comment on somebody's channel the other day, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, Jake Paul's going to win." Right? Okay. I gave my reasons why he wouldn't. They said, "Well, okay. Well, what's your reasoning then?" and I didn't engage with it. I thought, I can't be asked. I thought, you just say, oh, somebody's going to win. Okay, fine. If that's your belief, that's great. If you believe Harley Davidson are fantastic, if you believe Indian are fantastic, that's fine. That's great. I have no problem with that, because that's your opinion. But at least don't just make the statement and walk off. It's almost like you're throwing a couple of grenades in the room, walking off and seeing if people are going to start screaming. We don't care. Just tell us what your reasoning is. There we go. Right. So here we go. Jerry used to do taekwondo. Yeah, taekwondo, and compete. Loved it, although kept being disqualified for being too irking. There we go. Taekwondo. When you try to be a show off, bad things happen. Yeah, you usually get called out, and especially if you can't back it up. That's the thing. If you can't back it up, and usually the boxers that I've met over the years, I'm not in boxing circles, so I don't want to give a false impression in this here. I'm saying back in the day, let's say, or fighters, usually they're non-confrontational, because they know they can back it up. So usually, and people, I always say this: treat people with respect, and they will treat you with respect in return. If you're friendly, they're going to be friendly to you. So this is, I've met lots of people who are, very, very tough guys, but they are really, really nice people as well. I've had lots of great times with nice people, because if you're nice, they're nice, you're having a great time. I don't think the majority of people don't go around this world, looking for trouble and acting arseholes, unless they're fueled by alcohol or drugs or whatever. But most people, especially in the boxing fighting world, it just doesn't really happen. And they're more likely to say, okay, well, if you want to bring this to the street, we'll take it to the street right now, but that's going to be a bad decision. But if you want to bring it to the gym, let's bring it down to the gym. And most people don't turn up to the gym, do they? Because they think, well, I've sobered up now. Probably that was a bad idea, trying to call out a boxer or somebody who's a Muay Thai fighter or something like that. They say bring it down to the gym. All of a sudden you think, no, probably a good idea. I don't. Debenham Dave, hello there. Hello, hi, how are you? The day after another awful defeat. Yeah. Still have the hump. I'm very much the same. Very much the same. I'm very accepting of the fact that I would be useless on the track. Well, do you know what? After that time on the track, I was, useless. But it's still come away thinking, oh, I can ride. Thing is, I can ride. I know I can ride. I know I'm a decent rider, but I know I'm not. And I always knew this. I knew I was never a racing rider at that level. And when you put yourself at that level, just Tegan, wish you a good day. Yes, I bet it is early for you there. Yeah. There we go. I'm back up to speed there with the things, but it's just an odd thing, isn't it? People put themselves out there, but organizations, companies, local shops, they put themselves out there, and part of it is to hype yourself up, to make yourself more appealing, make yourself more sellable, try and sell more products, try and sell more things. And I suppose this has become part of the online experience now, part of the online world, part of the YouTube world especially, where people get more and more more and more famous, bigger and bigger. It becomes less, I don't know, it's just an impression I have, but it becomes less about them as individuals, but more about them in a business, them, pushing stuff on you or trying to create a narrative that generates even more hype. And this is what I get from, people like that, of the Jake Pauls, Logan Pauls, of the KSIs and all that sort of stuff. It is about creating even more hype to sell something or to do. I mean, look, hey, fair play to them. I've got no issues with that. in them getting bigger or them trying to sell it. But I'm trying to say it kind of goes. It's not. It's like almost like watching YouTube as mainstream TV. It's almost like watching. What's the word? Not sales TV. What's it called? The the shopping channel, as it were. It's sometimes it's a little bit like that, and I think what you're trying to sell, who you're trying to convince now, and I look at things. Sorry to bring this back to boxing, but I look at the things something like Jake Paul in particular. Jake Paul, it's almost like if you go behind the fighting, you can see there's a strategy there to say, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to fight that guy, and then I'm going to fight that guy, just trying to build up and just create as much controversy as possible. But behind it, I'm doing all these deals, I'm doing all these promotional deals here and there, and you think, aha, I gotcha. I know what's really going on here. You're going to just bullshit your way all the way to the, to get these bigger and bigger fights. But really, it's not about that. It's actually about all this other stuff behind it. And, there's no problem with that, because lots of people do that in the kind of biking world. They do it in all sorts of worlds, whatever you're interested in, but they certainly do that in the online world as well. But anyway, I've hopped on for too much, but I see lots of parallels with that kind of activity and what goes on in the biking world, also what goes on in the motorcycle manufacturing world. But certainly I see it again with motorcycle YouTubers or YouTubers in general. There is this kind of trying to build on top of each other, and then soon as people, you get bigger than somebody else, you try and leave somebody behind, or just because you're big, you want to keep those that are smaller, and you don't want to entertain with that. And I've seen that lots of times, and I've come across that lots of times. I've talked about this lots of times before as well. And when we talk about narcissism, there's a very real strong trait of that within people who, in general, who try and treat people differently. And I've always found that not a very appealing trait. Let's put it that way. Not an appealing trait. Anyway, I've harped on enough here. Shall we get into Shall we get into some news and see what's going on? Hold on. There we go. Yeah, let's get into some news, shall we? Okay, and let's just have a look at that. Right, so there's been lots of stories this morning which I've been trawling through. So I'm just going to go through, and I'm just going to get to the main topic later on, which is obviously biker gangs in the UK, or biker clubs. But they keep on calling them gangs, and this is the same for the US. They've been doing this for a long time now, but there may be truth in it, or there may be just false reporting, or it might just be a popular narrative that they just keep on trying to push. This is, I suppose, the bulk of this what I'm doing today is more about, there's individual stories here which I'm going to talk about, but it's more about the stories that you read and you think, well, what's that actually trying to tell me? What is it trying to tell me, and what is the real reason behind the story? Okay, so the first story here is about Indian cricket legend Mahendra Singh Dhoni, right? Very, very popular in India, obviously being Indian cricket captain as well. If for those of you who don't know, cricket is like a religion in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, that kind of thing. It's the number one sport. It's the number one thing that people just talk about. Just like over here, lots of people talk about football, and they just talk about football, but in those countries, it is cricket is the number one, right? Anyway, so he's just tried this new TVS Ronin motorcycle, and the story is about that. He's just bought this new motorcycle, very nice, and he's just added to his collection, right? But the question is, where did I find this story? So I found this story under a banner of Harley Davidson latest news. So I thought, right, okay, click on that. It says MS Dhoni. I didn't twig who it was first of all. So MS Dhoni, new TVS bike. I thought, oh, okay, what's going on here? What's that got to do with Harley Davidson? But the reason why I automatically focus in on it, because I know Harley Davidson teamed up with Hero Motorcorp from India, and I thought, oh, well, maybe is there another story here? Anyway, really disappointingly, the whole story has got nothing to do with Harley Davidson at all. Basically, it just reads off, right at the end here, it reads off what his, where is it? Yeah, there you go. It reads off his bike collection. It tells you what his bike collection. On one of those, he's got a Harley Davidson Fat Boy. He's got a Confederate X132 Hellcat. Wow, hello. That's a beautiful one. Kawasaki Ninja H2 Ducati 1098. Oh, he's got a nice Yamaha RD350 LC, lovely. A Ninja ZX14R, beautiful. I had one of those. Kawasaki Fatboy, BSA Gold Star, and many, many more. But the only reason why it was under the Harley Davidson banner heading was this. Now, this is not clickbait, but what I'm saying is it's just misleading. You get them drawn into something. And this is, this is for life here, right? You can easily get drawn into a story, not under false pretenses, but you think it's going to be about something else, or you question, well, what's this got to do with things like Harley Davidson, And so here, this is a story here, basically. You've got, and it comes from an Indian publication called Express Drives, and it's all about MS Dhoni getting this thing, and here it is. There we go. Where is it? There we go. And there's his bike collection here. So this is where it talks about all the different bikes that he's got. I just thought it was a bit. There we go. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at the next story here, shall we? Right. This is for those of you in New York. Oh, hello New York. Right. So traffic cameras in New York can hear you loud and clear, and they hear your exhaust loud and clear. So basically there's traffic jams, and basically you can be fined if you've got excessive noise levels. Now the reason why I'm bringing you this story has got nothing to do with, because I think it's brand new news for New York, but this has been happening here in the UK for a couple of years now. I launched this story a couple of years ago where I think it was Hampshire or somewhere like that. They launched the first noise cameras, or cameras that have also got microphones on them. They can pick up the noise. So the whole story goes through this, and this is from carscoops.com, so if you ever want to read this as well. But as I say, it's about this technology is being pushed out more and more and more to more cities around the world, and this whole loud pipe save lives and everything. You're probably going to find in years to come, or not in years to come, but from now on, that more and more people can say, yeah, loud pipes save lives, but you're still going to be fined $800 here in the case of this one as well. I'm sure it's for excessive noise. What's the? Let me have a look at the decibel meter. The measure decibels. Then they photograph license plate. Right, okay, so the devices have the ability to measure the decibels emitted by each of the oncoming vehicles, checking if they are above the legal limits. So every country is going to have their own legal limit, of course. Then they photograph the license plates of those with illegally modified exhausts or extremely loud sound systems. Oh, right, okay, so it's just music as well. And send them a fine for excessive noise, as reported by the Associated Press. First-time offenders will face a fine of $800 in New York City, while those who ignore a third offence hearing get a penalty of $2,625. It doesn't say what the decibel rating is. Yeah, this is all part of the Stop Loud and Excessive Exhaust Pollution Act. Look, it is just another thing, isn't it? It's just another thing to, it's about the narrative, isn't it? It's about pushing this green, friendly electric vehicle thing. It's all about that, isn't it? and it's the more I look into this, the more I think, crikey, is what is going on in the background? What is going on with all these people trying to push this quiet running, this pollution-free, existence? And you say, well, yeah, okay, you want to save the planet, but what is really driving it? And I think you'll find that at some level, somebody's being paid for this. Some level. Dave, yes, I thought that technology had been proven unreliable in the UK. I think it has. That's the thing, So I'm not sure how reliable it is on the open road, because it's you can, with sound, you can. There are quite simple programs you can get for your own computer. You can take a sound and you can work out what the frequencies are of individual sounds, and then you can mask those individual frequencies, and then you can just find out exactly what that sound is from that vehicle there. I could do it. It's actually quite simple to use, right? So you get it like there's an Adobe sound package which you could do. You get it and it just breaks up the sound. But I'm not sure if it can differentiate between sounds at a distance. So you can get sound, you can identify sound, and you can say that one sound is louder than the other. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the sound that's louder than the other sound is actually louder when they're in the same point in space. All it's saying at that one point, that sound is louder than the other sound. So that's on the open road. The other aspect to this is whether the sound recording, whether it's taken into account, reverberation as well. So that, let's just say, if you've got within houses or big buildings, tall buildings, and you're riding down a road, if you all going under an underpass or a bridge or something, you twist on the throttle, it sounds a lot louder because it's reverberating around as well. So it'd be interesting to see what they talk about this. Okay. Here's another story here for you. This is Elijah X launches its landmark self-stabilizing technology. This is for India. Now, this self-stabilizing technology of motorcycles is been doing the rounds, actually, in lots of different companies all over the world. Have been looking at this for quite a few years now, and I think one of the first ones to come out in public about it was BMW about 10 years ago, and they were looking at this, and other manufacturers have sort of taken note of this, and they've put they've affected like traction control, that kind of thing, power delivery, but also steering capability as well. They can put little push sensors or push rams, like steering, almost like not steering dampers, but steering pushers on the handlebars as well, or on the forks. And that can help to stabilize as well, either at slow speed or at higher speeds as well. But this is where they're talking about here. This is from, where is it? From Visor Down here, this Elijah. And this is the first manufacturer to say that it's the first one in India that they're saying this. The Elijah X is the first Indian scooter to be equipped with a self-stabilizing system, allowing it not to fall. So this is an interesting one. The Indian company Elijah has revealed its new Elijah X scooter 2 years after they revealed the prototype in 2021. There are two versions. It just goes on. Yeah. Liquid cooled batteries. Oh, and it's electric as well. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, interchangeable batteries. Yeah, so there we go. I mean, this is I wouldn't be so, if you're looking into the future in terms of technology as well, in terms of motorcycling technology, or should I say two-wheeled riding technology, then you're going to have a lot more of this kind of rider enhancements and a lot more of that. Do I necessarily agree with it? Well, I think the point is you're taking more and more away from the rider being able to ride these things, but you're also allowing more people to ride them who may not necessarily be able to safely ride them. I'm not sure which way I lean on this, to be quite honest with you. You know, because I think at some point you've got to say, well, no, there is a machine that has to be controlled by the rider. And if that system breaks for whatever reason, or is not working at its optimum level, or that bike gets a little bit older, then we're moving more and more into technology driven machines, and less where it's rider or driver controlled. And at that point, you're getting into a point where we're just a hop, skip, and a jump away from, you know, a driverless cars, or cars having to be driven by the driver. They already exist, but I'm talking in mainstream here in terms of people having them day to day. The technology is already there. We know this, Tesla and other companies in the US, and they've been talking about this from, auto lanes in the US and California highways and stuff like that. So, you know, that it has been around for a while, but it just seems as if there's lots and lots of technology has come out, and it's just so that people are not crashing, which I get, but at the same time you're also taking it away from the rider themselves to be able to know how to ride a motorcycle. There was a story, there's a recall, BMW motorcycles, and I think there was a few crashes. I can't remember the story now, but I only released it a couple of weeks ago. I did a video about it, and what it was a software issue. They did a software upgrade on some BMW models, and basically what happened was that affected the traction control, the anti-wheelie system. So basically, riders were getting on these bikes and they're twisting on the throttle, but the traction control isn't automatically taken over, and the bike that is starting to, the anti-wheelie isn't taken over, so the bike is starting to lift off, and they're getting very loose on the handlebars, because as soon as you start taking pressure off the front wheel, if you're not sure, you're going to start doing this, you see, and you're going to get speed wobbles and all sorts of stuff, but also you're going to immediately lose control, and that's what's happened in a couple of instances. Riders didn't know this was happening, so they weren't prepared for it, and this is my problem with this kind of technology, is that all of a sudden you have increasing rider technology where people just don't know how to handle a situation without that technology, and that's the issue. Whilst it's great and the technology is great, it's almost like we're getting to a point where we're just, it's not lending itself to to riders always being in control of what they're doing, and I suppose you could say the same for drivers as well. But there we go. I've just got other things here. So I got messages coming through. Oh no, it's my dentist. That's fine. I need to go and get my pearly whites checked. There we go. It's always nice when the dentist gives you a reminder. Good. Right. Okay. So that's one story there. Let me just get rid of that one. But I'd say I'm not sure what I feel about that. I'm not sure what I feel about that. It's yeah. But there we go. The next story. This isn't a next story, but I suppose this is a continuation on the theme about electric motorcycles and electric scooters. And I'll quickly bring this on. This is from Visor Down again. A Chinese manufacturer, Lonsin, have launched a new model under the Bicos brand with a new electric Rilf ST electric scooter. And then basically they got the batteries that are already in there. You can't remove them, and but they got fast charging. You can charge them up with a full to 80%, I think it was, to within a couple of hours. It's got lots of storage space on it. It's what was it? Yeah, 80% charge. You can charge your batteries. The two batteries aren't there, but they're already in the frame, up to 80%. It's got 149-mile range on it. It's got different rider modes and stuff like that. And this is where I talk about the electric bikes of let's say now, of the future. The value is going to be in these kinds of bikes here, and also, watch out all those established electric motorcycle brands, when you've got these big players coming in with very cheap motorcycles, hey, they don't have to last years and years. If they just give you value and it's a bike that you can use and it's electric, this is what people are going to use, isn't it? You know, and it's going to feed into that green agenda, that green narrative. You know, you're not going to be caught on any noise meter or noise camera, you know, going down the road as well. You know, it's, you know, silent running, and people are going to love that. But, you know, there's more and more manufacturers now who are going to pumping out these bikes, these cheap bikes, and yeah, that's where the market could be going, especially for urban riding and commuter riding as well. Next story, I'm going to quickly push on this as well. Obviously, Harley-Davidson, they've in the last few days, they've increased their dividend out to their shareholders as well. I'm not sure what you make of that. You know, they've increased their shares to share dividends to shareholders as well. The big criticism of companies like Harley-Davidson is that they're less focused on riders and customers and giving value to the customers, but more about giving their shareholders increasing dividends, and that, you know, and this kind of feeds into that narrative, right, into that story. That's all I'm saying. But obviously, and this is all based upon how well that they think they've done, or how the market thinks they've done, how the market projects that they'll do from last year into this year as well. So that's all part of it as well. Here's another story here. If you go on to, this is motorcycle news. I've done a story on Peugeot motorcycles. They've just been taken over by a German equity firm or private equity firm. If you go onto the website, you'll see that there. But I just wanted to see that there's this bike here that Peugeot have started. This is the XP400, but it's like an off-road type motorcycle or scooter. I actually really like this. There's quite a few of these scooter bikes that come out now. They're kind of more rugged and they're more suited for track riding, you know, dirt track riding, let's put it that way, not trail riding, but dirt track riding. You know, got a bit of under protection. They've got, you know, block pattern wheels, spoke wheels, and yeah, I kind of like it. I think, yeah, that's all right, that'll get you on some dirt trails. You know, if you know my thoughts on this, you know, you can take any bike anywhere. You know, you don't have to have a big ADV bike. You don't have to have a motocrosser bike or a trail bike. You can take, I'll take my Harley anywhere. I take all my bikes, my old Kawasaki's, all my sports bikes, whatever. I take them anywhere. It didn't bother me. And part of the reason was I grew up on a farm as well. So I had to ride on dirt roads and muddy dirt roads to get onto the main road. So I had to ride for a couple of miles just to get on there. You know, that's just the way it is. So for me to ride on dirt roads with a road bike has never been an issue. And this is just like a continuation of that. You got smaller bikes that actually can be good for the road, but also, yeah, good for some trail rides. And most trails, you know, the great thing about these scooters is that because you're in the bike, you step through, you know, you've got a low center of mass as well, so you're closer and they're easier to handle, right? So if you've got this kind of bike and you want to take it on a trail ride as well, especially if it's not too challenging, then all of a sudden you've got a decent bike. You know, the problem is with any of these bikes, or any bike, is if you get into deep ruts, you know, that kind of thing. If you got anything where you have to jump over things, let's say. But for most times, you know, if you come to deep ruts area, or you think I can't handle this, well, you just turn around. If you find that you have to jump over things, where you either turn around, or a lot of times you can just ride around it a little bit as well. And find, you know, so I often find when people say, you know, I'd be going off-road riding, you say, yeah, but you can make it hard, or you can make it easy, and you can find difficult routes, or you can find easier routes. And let's say if there's a toss-up between going in the winter months, where it's really muddy and slippery and sludgy and horrible, or going in the summer months where it's dry, well, just don't go off in the winter months. Just don't go off on the really challenging routes. You know, just find some routes that are dry, compacted, and away you go. You know, it's as simple as that, really. So, and obviously it depends where you are in the world. It depends where you are in the world. If you can find these trails, if you're allowed to do it, because remember some countries have outlawed off-road riding because what they're saying is you can't have off-road riding on private land. You can't just go on, so there's, like Italy was a big thing. They did this. They tried to push this law where you say you can't ride motorcycles off-road on land that you don't own or you don't have permission. In the UK, let's say we have byways, so you can ride your bike on routes that are off-road routes that are still open to all traffic, right? So they're usually sort of trails and stuff like that. But they got reduced dramatically over the years as well. So in the United States and stuff, there's loads of areas where you can ride around, right? But in Australia and places in Africa, but not always. So there we go. Okay, so that's one story there. But I just saw that. Let me just put this picture up again. I just saw it. I thought, oh, that's the end of the story. I just thought it was a nice bike. It was all right. I thought, yeah, I don't like this colour, but the white one here. There's quite a few. There's a few of the manufacturers who do. It's Aljet Dragstar. I think they do an off-road version as well of this. But there's quite a few of these scooters that are kind of. You look at them, you think, do you know what? The point is I must throw this into the mix, that scooters have been ridden off-road for years, ever since they were in, not only scooters but mopeds and everything like that. Honda C90s. If you go to places like, I don't know, Africa, for example, lots of dirt roads all over, they're riding normal bikes everywhere. So it's not a new thing. But what I'm saying is this kind of generation of off-road capable, in inverted commas, scooters. There are more and more bikes that actually look pretty good as well. They look pretty good as well, and you think, oh yeah, all right, not bad. Okay, so that's that one there. Let me have a look here. Okay, Honda. I'll just quickly put this up. Honda in Canada, just this XL150L. There's new bikes coming there. The reason why I'm glancing over that is because this XR150 is not available in all markets, so it really depends where you are, and obviously there it's just going into Canada. It probably might be going into the US as well. There's lots of bikes, lots of these trail bikes, about the 150, 125, 150, 200, 250. There's lots of them that have been launched, let's say, in global news, but it's kind of hard to talk about them sometimes, because you say, well, it's only available in that country, or it's only available in that continent. It's not available where we are as well. And I haven't, in all fairness, I haven't looked this morning to see if this bike is over here. But actually, just looking at it, it's actually very generic looking anyway. It's not, wrong one. It's, I'll tell you what, as I'm here, let me just see if this is in the UK market. I'm pretty sure it isn't. When I looked the other day, Montesa. Okay, off-road. CRF, CR. No, there isn't any. Oh, 125. Let's have a look. No. CPR. No, there isn't. There isn't anything here in the UK. So as I thought, so it really depends where you are in the world, if these bikes are going to be available. But personally, I actually like that bike. The reason why I wanted to talk about it is that 150 is a nice little sweet spot from 125 up to. The problem is 150. It's a bit of a because, let's say, in places like the US and Canada, I'm not sure about Canada, but they don't have graded motorcycle licenses, whereas a lot of the world, certainly the UK and around Europe, you have graded licenses, so you can only come in at a certain level. Then as you get older, you can get bigger and bigger bikes, let's say. Or you start off as a learner rider, you can only go on a small bike, let's say less than a 125. If you're under 16, it's only less than a 50cc. And then you can go up thereafter. So the problem is the 150. They've tried this many years ago in this country. It's too much. And like the 150s, the 175s, that kind of thing. There's not much of a gap from the 125. So if you're saying to somebody who's just passed their motorcycle test, okay, I'm going to go from a 125 learner size up to a 175, you think there's not much of a power difference. But if you're going up to 250, 350, 400, so on and so forth, you've got a much better. There's much more of a gap. There's much more of a, something to get into there. Here, this is another story. Here we go. Right, again, very quick story here. I don't want to dwell on it. Here's another story from Vietnam, right? Honda, where I've been saying in the last few weeks, say Honda and places like Suzuki and everything like that, they're saying, oh, what great sales they've got. All these manufacturers are saying what amazing sales they're doing, especially all these small bikes and scooters and everything, especially in the Far East. They're just the sales have just gone up and up and up and up and up, right? Well, here, Honda in Vietnam, the headline is sees sharp falls in bike and car sales. And I'm going, ooh, what's that? That bucks a trend. What's going on? So this is where I kind of criticise the publication here. And this is Vietnam Plus. Well, not criticise, that's probably wrong to say, but it's misleading. And it's not clickbait per se, because they explain what they mean in the article, but it's headline. I suppose it's done its business, because I clicked on it to see what the news is. The reason is, okay, they're down 13% on the month in January. Says that's a lot, down 13%, 16% on the year is data showing. This has just been coming out, right? Meanwhile, the cars are down by 35% and 60% on the year, right? Okay. But then it goes on to say, like some of the things, it goes on to say, but the expert said both motorcycle and automobile sales witnessed strong declines in January, since the month coincided with the Lunar New Year, which is the Tet holiday, when many people tend to curb spending on valuable things, especially before and after the holiday. This is a common trend every Tet, for every holiday period. It's very common, and the market will bounce back in the following months for not only motorcycles but automobiles. So this is what I mean. It's just like, oh, you think, oh, well, they've suddenly saw dramatic sales slump. What's going on with Honda? I immediately thought, this is my thinking, that Honda, they've seen a massive sales slump. There must be another manufacturer there who's suddenly taken over the market. Maybe a Vietnamese producer has suddenly jumped into the lead. That was my thinking. Then all of a sudden you say, oh no, this is a perfectly normal thing that happens every year. And you think, what was all that about then? So there we go. So is it clickbait? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's clickbait anymore or whatever. Let me just check, see if there's any latest news items coming through. I try and keep this as up to date as I can when I'm doing these news stories. Yeah, not a lot going on there. Let me just do that. Not long going there. Here's some. Is another one. Now we're getting into the bit of the ridiculous story. So basically, Harley Davidson ride. This story has been around for about a few weeks now, about three or 4 weeks, I think. And I thought I'd just finally read into it. Basically, a biker's denied intentionally causing more than £700 of damage. This is here in the UK. To a motorist's wing mirror as he rode past her and driving his Harley Davidson without third-party insurance. And it just basically goes on. So basically he's ridden around, he's clipped her wing mirror, or he's hit it off, I don't know. He's basically, Christopher Sirocco 40 appeared in front of Haverfordwest Magistrates Court. He's charged with criminal damage on the A477 in that he intentionally damaged the wing mirror of a female motorist he was passing. He's also charged with driving his Harley Davidson without the correct insurance. Yeah, so both offences are alleged to have happened on March 27th last year and were denied by Sirocco. The court heard that the driver could see a number of motorcycles and motorbikes coming up behind her as she overtook a car and then pulled back into a lane. Some of the motorbike riders reportedly made hand gestures at her before. Okay. So you can see what's happened here. You can see what's happening. I don't know what the end result of this story is, but it's basically some ladies pulled out in front of them, group of motorcycles. They've gone round giving it the old verbals, as it were, or non-verbals, I should say, the non-verbals. And then also this one character's gone and decided to attack a wing mirror. Well, look, I always used to say this to people, right, or people who are riding. I'd say, like, okay, you know, you're riding, you're filtering, or you're going past, and a car in front of you does something stupid, and you think, oh, do you know what? I'm going to break their wing mirror, right? Yeah, that's not very smart, because one, you know, or they try and kick the car or kick whatever. Well, one, you've got relative masses here. So you've got a big heavy car versus you on a light motorcycle. You kick in a car, you might damage the car door, but it's going to push you out. So you're going to destabilize your ride. Second of all, if you try and break it with your hand like a wing mirror, yeah, you might break the wing mirror, but you also might damage your hand as well, which you need to. So that's another thing. But also bear this in mind, that regardless of what they've done there, you, by doing that, they can take your number plate and you're going to be charged with criminal damage. That's exactly what's happened here. That's exactly what's happened here. Regardless of what that woman has done, the right or the wrong in terms of her driving capability, and how aggressive all the other riders were when they tried to overtake her, because they've obviously seen that in their eyes she's done something wrong. Okay, fine. But the one person has taken it to that next level and caused criminal damage and actually broken, then there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse for it. And then all of a sudden you've got a problem. You're going to end up in court. So, you know, who's the mug here? You know, you've caused your own pain, as it were. In other words, just letting it go, just going by, just like, you know, you could ride past her and go, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, or if it becomes into a verbal confrontation, you could, you know, she winds down a window, you could say, look, you just overtaken here, you could have caused some damage, you know, but it stays verbal. You know, you don't need to get into the physical stuff of confronting somebody physically, certainly, but also causing criminal damage, because what, it doesn't matter what they've done in the end. You know, you can't claim self-defense or provocation in causing harm to them or damaging their vehicle or damaging their property. It just doesn't work. You've basically lost control, therefore you're going to be in the wrong. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. So hey, don't do it. You're just, you know, you won't win. You won't win on this. You know, you think you've won. Oh yeah, I'm so cool that I've just, you know, taught them a lesson by breaking their windows. Yeah, that's fine. You have. But they'll be teaching you a lesson in court later on. You know, as simple as that. What's this one? Okay, this is a quick story. Again, very quick one here. This story here. This is about milk. New coffee. This milk coffee Harley. It actually looks quite. Do you know? The more I look at it, the first when I first saw this, I thought, oh, what is that? But actually, the more I look at this colour, I think, oh, hello. Yeah, milk. This is a custom bike as well. It's the old Fat Boy, 2014 Fat Boy. Yeah, I kind of like that. It, you know, obviously it's very hard to say in the pictures, but it kind of reminds me of not World War II, but, you know, military vehicles that operate in the sand. That sort of sand colour military vehicle, which it isn't, but, you know, there we go. Oh, nice. Okay. Next, what was the next story? I'm just going to go here. This is about electric bikes. Okay, here's another story here, basically about electric bikes getting more and more powerful. Yes, and more expensive as well. Here, I want to push on because lots of these stories aren't that great. Motorcycling here in the UK. They've got 6 new bikes, the American brand, but a lot of this is American brand here, I believe a lot of it is Chinese backing as well. So this is what I call the European design houses, but essentially they're Chinese made motorcycles, and this is the same with as well. They're an American based motorcycle, but I believe a lot of this is, some of them may be manufactured in the US, but they're also there's a lot of Chinese back in here as well, and they come in at a similar price point as these European design houses as well. So therefore, but they've got some nice little bikes here. They've got some nice bikes there. I particularly like these sort of traily bikes here. They're quite nice as well. So there we go. So that's or getting more popular. Here's another quick story here. I'm not sure what to make of this. The Jivy racing gear or gear motorcycle gear. They've got new Cafe Ranger Cafe Racer range as well, which I'm not. It's more slimline basically, a bit more slimline stuff as well. I mean, I'm not really going to go into this story, but but there we go. Lots of manufacturers or product manufacturers are obviously start of the year, starting with the riding season now. You can imagine they're going to be pushing out lots of their products now. This is the other story which I kind of featured on the show the other day, but this is about the racing all being cancelled in Northern Ireland this year, and due to basically insurance rates gone way too high, they can't afford to run them on. And there's basically the Solution Irish Motorcycle Road Racing crisis. Sorry, the Solution Irish Motorcycle Road Racing crisis really needs. So basically, they're looking for solutions to see if they're going ahead. They're basically looking at a crowdfunding campaign by the Motorcycle Union of Ireland has raised at least some of the funds they need to go ahead, bringing hope as that the rest can be found continuing fundraising and sponsorship, while the island's premier event, the Northwest 200, has pledged to carry on if at all possible, attempting to secure its own public liability insurance. And it just goes on and on and on. Basically, because the insurance rates are way too high for this year. Their original insurance provider, Allianz, I think, pulled out. They're not supplying insurance products to racing events anymore. They were looking at a few other insurance providers. I think it was 3, and the cheapest was about 400 grand, 500 grand. I don't know, something like that. Obviously, it's a crazy amount of money. So they're obviously looking at, but it's effectively right now there's going to be no motorcycle racing in Northern Ireland for 2023. If they can recover all of the races or some of the races by crowdfunding, or whether trying to fund each individual race by something like this, then great. I mean, it's a real loss, definitely, to the motorcycle racing program, of course. And I love this kind of raw racing as well, but without that being paid for, just don't know. Okay, let's have a look here. There's some. What's this one? Hold on. There is. Okay, here's the story. So the following stories, some are serious, some are. I took a giggle at. Okay, so I'm just going to click through them and see what it is. So basically, there's a guy in Tunbridge who's so drunk he fell off the bike and had trouble picking it back up. Right. Basically, a drunk motorcyclist who'd been drinking loads and loads of vodka basically got caught by the police who called this guy basically. He had difficulty riding off, and a member of the public was concerned he was intoxicated. As he rode off, he fell off the bike and had trouble picking it back up. So basically, 52-year-old, unfortunately, is reported here. He's been self-medicating the pain with alcohol and paracetamol. He also claimed he was just trying to move the bike in a better position, but also admitted he also used alcohol as a crutch during episodes of stress. Basically, he's going through a bit of a tough time here, but it was just a bit of an interesting, funny take on it that he was drunk and he tried to get on his bike, but he didn't go very far because he fell off it. But obviously he was witnessed doing this. It wasn't. I read the story. The headline was that he got on his bike and in other words just swung a leg over and he fell off it, so he didn't actually ride it. But I thought that was more funny, but when I saw that he was actually riding it, well, okay, that's not funny at all, really. But it is a comical thing. You say, well, he just tried to ride it, and he just fell off because he's drunk, isn't he? Of course. This is more of a scary one. This is not a motorcyclist, but this is a cyclist, mountain bike rider. But basically, somebody was on a trail, and somebody had put in a wire between a post and a tree or something, and it just clattered him. He didn't even see the wire. So somebody's trying to do something really stupid here. And this is always one of my fears when I was riding down trails or riding down, dark roads. And you think, well, has somebody done a stupid thing here and put a wire across? And he basically says, hey, listen, if this was any higher, it would have hit my neck or my chest, or certainly taken my neck, and it could have been a lot more serious as well. He's done damage to his hands as well. But hey, if you're ever riding on these trails, always be aware, just really pay attention. Because I'm not even sure how you could see some of that, like a wire like that. I think the problem is if you're going at any kind of speed, you're not likely to see it. But if you're going really slowly, then I've come across wires before as well, that kind of thing. And it's scary. It is definitely scary when you see that. Right. So this is another story now where I kind of think, well, what is the story trying to tell me? And this is where I kind of look at it, right? So this is Tredegar, off-road biker. So off-road biker jailed for drinking and riding. So initially I see that story. So hold on a minute. How can an off-road biker be jailed for drinking and riding? There is no law in the UK. There's no law anywhere. If you're on off-road, off the main highway, and if you are, as far as I'm aware, and especially if you're off-road and if you're on private land, let's say, and if regardless of how you're riding or whatever, and you say you've been drinking, well, you're off the road. So, now, is it a right thing to do? Is it a sensible thing to do? No. But what I'm saying is, okay, so how can you be jailed for that? Okay, then the story comes out, right? He's basically an off-road biker has been jailed for drinking and riding, and for doing so when he was banned from the roads. Okay, so again, I still don't know what the story is here. Jordan Llewellyn, 27 from Tredegar, pleaded guilty to driving with 185 milligrams of alcohol in 80 millimeters of blood. So basically, well over the limit, right? Okay, just keep on going. Also admitted driving while disqualified without any insurance and when driving without due care and attention. He was jailed for... Right, it just goes on. So this is the South Wales Argus, right? I don't know where the story is here. Now, so here's the thing. Was he caught driving or riding for drinking on the road whilst he'd been banned without insurance and everything like that? Or was he caught off-road? Was he an off-road, motorcyclist, who likes, off-road riding? And was he caught off-road? Was he riding an off-road bike, like a dirt bike, motocrosser, on the road? Do you know what I mean? So this is the thing, that you read some of these stories somewhere, these headlines, and you think, well, what's all that about? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But there we go. So I thought I just want to bring this to you because you think, well, actually, this is a story that you think, well, it really should be. They should make this more clear. And this is for me, it's a bit lazy. This is lazy journalism. It's not even journalism, really. I mean, this is just kind of reporting. But I think I think that what they're trying to do is okay. But it's when I say lazy, it's probably not the right word to say. It's just not accurate enough. It's not detailed enough. And maybe I'm just misreading what it's supposed to say, but what part of this is on-road or off-road? Where was he actually caught? What was this, So for me, if you're going to be accurate, be accurate. Okay, the next one here. This is, again, another thing. The reason why is that I got a Zorax helmet myself, right? But also this melon, he's basically got a sticker on the back of his helmet that said, "Catch me if you can, suckers." And they did. The police caught him for speeding. A brazen biker led police on a 5-mile chase with a helmet reading, "Catch me if you can." The pursuit came an hour after a robbery in which a teenager was seriously assaulted. Well, there you go. He's a bit of a ne'er-do-well as well. Officers scaled the fence in their frantic pursuit of the biker, who is said to have made off from the officers in Nuneaton, Warwickshire. So there we go. Later realised the biker had been wearing a helmet that said on the back, "Catch me if you can." So it turns out that we can and did catch the rider of this motorcycle. So there we go. They had the last laugh, you know. And it just goes to show, if you put these labels. I mean, I released a couple of stories in the last live show, didn't I? Of people with funny number plates as well, and said, yeah, you got caught there, didn't you? So who's you know, as we would say over here, who's the dickhead now? You know, there you go. So that's an intro. Anyway, I just thought a funny story. Here's another story again. This is a stoned and uninsured biker crashes into a police car in Plymouth. The reason why I want to bring these stories up, because it just adds fuel to the fire of these idiots getting on two wheels, or of any description, whether it's a bicycle, motorcycle, electric bikes, whatever, and just giving everybody else a bad name. This is why, you know, thing. So I have no problem with, you know, these news agencies. This is like Plymouth Herald here. .co.uk. I've no problem with them reporting this, and I've no problem in me relaying this, right? But again, he's basically on one of these Chiron bikes, right? He's stoned and he's crashed into the police car, an unmarked police car. So no insurance, tested positive for cannabis. Police say the electric motorcycle failed to give way at injunction. The rider was arrested. So the problem is, this bike here is not even for the road. I don't believe so. Sauron do make a road legal bike, but I don't believe this is one. I don't believe this is it. Anyway, so there we go. He's been nicked for it. So there you go. Getting stoned on a bike is not big and clever. There we go. So that's that one. Right. Let's get on to the main story of the day, and I just kind of want to bring, because this next one is all about. It's all about the news story as well, but it's also about, I suppose, what's going on here, or how it works over here in the UK. Let's do that. Okay. So this is a story that comes out of, well, it's what we call the rag tops, or the red tops here in the UK, and this is not a news publication, newspaper. It's, if you can call it that hasn't got a good reputation, especially in my circles. Not a good reputation. We don't like it. So, you know, kind of. I suppose that's the background of it, and I suppose I have some bias from it. And you think, but I always think, well, okay, newspapers and news agencies should lead with decent reporting. And the problem is, a lot of the time, especially this kind of tabloid journalism, in inverted commas, it doesn't, you know, come out with decent stories or anything like that. Okay, but here's the story, right? It's out online. Basically, so the headline here is Sons of Anarchy, you know, there we go. Deadly biker gangs have spread a silent crime network across the UK with strongholds in 2 major cities. I mean, it just, you know, so you've already, the headline is already biased and skewed anyway. But basically, biker gangs, not motorcycle clubs, biker gangs, they're saying this sort of stuff. They've spread a silent network of organised crime, with an insider has revealed, an insider. Bikers synonymous with Harley Davidsons and leather jackets have brought violence and mayhem from Scotland to Surrey. Okay, so this is there's been a couple of stories here recently, where the one in Plymouth, where a guy in a motorcycle club he was knocked over and killed by three blokes from another motorcycle club, the Bandidos, and basically it was turf wars, and basically it's just somebody who was riding with different motorcycle club colours in a different area, and they decided to go and kill the guy. I mean, it's just outrageous, isn't it? I talked about it, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but as you go back to the previous ones on that. But here, they're talking about this as part, well, it's a problem, and the problem of the clubs and everything, and this is the issue. You can go and read the story if you want, and I'm just going to skip on this thing as well. But you can look at this and say, okay, these motorcycle clubs, they're all hooligans, they're all ne'er-do-wells, they're all misfits, they're all doing crime, they're all criminals, right? And I've said this before, that is simply not the case, okay? That is like saying everybody who's in a knitting circle is, is just God-fearing and, the most upstanding members of the community. There isn't. Okay, especially if the groups are much bigger, you're always going to have somebody who's not doing the right thing, right? That's one aspect of it. However, the flip side of that is to say that all these groups, all these motorcycle clubs, you can't say that they're all choir boys, because again, that is just assuming that everybody in there is just a choir boy, never done anything wrong. Okay, it's just not that way. So, you've got to look at it from that point of view. But essentially, they are motorcycle clubs. So you've got to look at it from that. There's motorcycle clubs, and they have their own rituals, they have their own, membership and ways to get in, and they might dress in a certain way. And so that there are similarities in terms of the culture, the cultural there, the umbrella, that subculture, I should say, that subculture. But again, you're talking as if they're, they're gangs and everything. And here you should put in pictures up here of, this is a funeral of the president of the Blue Angels in Motorcycle Club in Scotland, where everybody's just turned up for, it's just, well, this is not a gang gathering. This is just where many members from many motorcycle clubs, certainly in Scotland, have all turned up to pay their respects to somebody from within their community. So you're kind of using this as a bias, for your story, but it isn't. This is a misrepresentation of this photograph. Okay, so this is where I start to have a problem with it. This is where the other story here, Lynch, well, obviously about the guy in Plymouth, or was it Plymouth or Cornwall, who was David Crawford, who was killed by the rival bikers from the Bandidos as well. They've shown his back patches as well. But then it goes on to the different biking clubs, motorcycle clubs, and then it starts mixing up terms: biker gangs, motorcycle clubs. It says about the Hells Angels, Bandidos, Outlaws, Vikings, and Satan's Slaves, and then it starts talking about where, standard stuff about where they are and everything. But they're saying now a member of a British biker club, now a biker club, right, has spoken to the Sun on condition of anonymity. Well, what the hell is he speaking to them anyway? So I'm not too sure. What biker club? Where is he talking from? Yeah. So where's the source? What's the source? How trusted is this source? This sort of stuff, right? He said that gangs were operating in silence across the country, but were particularly strong in Manchester, Liverpool, and the surrounding northwest region. Well, there are big motorcycle clubs. There are big motorcycle clubs all over the country. But it doesn't necessarily mean that one is bigger than the other, or one area is bigger than the other. But yeah, okay, fine. If you want to talk about that in terms of motorcycle clubs, they might be big and strong. But it depends, are they involved in criminal activity? Is that proven? Is that, are you saying that clubs have been taken down by local law enforcement because of activity? Well, maybe there is some, but it's not widespread, so therefore it's not widespread news, is it? You're just saying one person. Here, the biker in his late 30s described how members of the notorious MC, this is the Hells Angels, he said the Hells Angels use tactics more associated with drug gangs and terrorist organizations. Basically said that, so they all had balaclavas, like the IRA. I hit the first one and he went down, but then the rest were on me. They had tools, weapons, and they smashed my hand to bits. And they're basically saying that there's a common tactic, smash your hand so you can't ride your motorcycle and everything like that. And it just goes on and on and on, mixing bias here. Then it starts coming out with, so you think, well, there's a little bit of maybe a little bit of truth in certain things. Basically saying, the former prisoner, he was in prison, I was approached or headhunted by bikers in 2019. This is how I got involved. They wanted me to be on board because of my reputation, obviously in prison. He told The Sun that in the UK, the motorcycle organisations were clubs and not gangs, but members of the clubs were involved in crime. So, okay, this bit you could kind of understand. He's basically saying, no, they're not gangs, they're motorcycle clubs. But it didn't say all members, but you might be saying, well, members of the clubs are involved in crime. I would not be surprised. But that doesn't mean to say that they're all doing it. It could be just individuals. Now, it could be that they're a lot of, I don't know, I'm not just saying that, but this is just kind of the weak reporting here. And, you've got to, this is where I think there's an issue here with this kind of report. When you say you've got somebody who's on the inside, who's still a member, who's giving an interview to The Sun, which is a well-known tabloid press, well-known ragtop, where people would they would walk on hot coals before giving an interview to this mob, right? And you think, well, what's caused it? What's caused this guy to give an interview to this press here? Is it money? Have they, what's going on here? There we go. Devon and Day, as a print worker whose dad worked on Fleet Street, detests The Sun. Yeah. Well, it's just, obviously in the football world as well, which just, not a good word to be said there. They've tried to repair their reputation a little bit, but it's still poor reporting here. So, they're saying here that the Sun, he told The Sun, that the motorcycle organisations were clubs and not gangs, but members of the clubs were involved in crime. But they also said earlier, they said, well, actually, they operate like gangs as well. The big names, such as Hells Angels, Bandidos, Outlaws, are clubs. They have presidents and a clubhouse too. Well, again, the big names. Well, no, all clubs have motorcycle clubs and MCCs have presidents, and they may have some kind of clubhouse, or they may have meeting houses as well. So again, it's not just them. Okay, so the biker, there's a lot of ex-military in the biking community. Well, that's true, but that's also in other walks of life. There are also people like me who have been inside. Yeah, I would not be surprised as well. I think the clubs track people who have had troubled upbringings. My background is typical, really. Well, that may be case. There may be a case it attracts misfits from society, maybe as this is saying here, as troubled upbringings. But many clubs attract people who've not come from that as well. So it's kind of, again, all you're reporting on is that this is what has been said to you, that they're misfits from society, let's say, but they come from troubled upbringings. What you should have said is, actually, the counter argument is that many people go into motorcycle clubs, they're bank managers, they're accountants, whatever, they're shopkeepers, they're metal workers, whatever. They're just normal, hard-working people who just actually like to be in the brotherhood or the brethren of the motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to be balanced report. For me, it all comes down to balanced reporting. If you're going to write stuff like this, right, or reporting it, and hopefully you're watching this now and you are seeing what I am seeing, and you're saying, okay, yeah, I'm trying to tell them where they should have put some balance to this, and they haven't, and this is the problem. Okay. He said that he has seen bikers involved in serious violence. Okay, well, right, yeah, what, bikers or motorcycle club members, or what are you talking about here? But Adam, for me, it's all about the riding. I have 3 Harleys, and they are pure joy. Here we go. Oh, okay. Oh, no. That's not for me. You know, I love my Harleys and I love riding. I can't describe the feeling of riding with the sunset behind you. Oh, here we go. He's seen quite a few Harley Davidson marketing reels, hasn't he? All racing, trying to stay ahead of the rain. I've met so-called bikers who don't have bikes. To me, they are a joke. Well, that is true. It's not prevalent here in the UK, but definitely in other parts of the world, there's definite true where people are so-called motorcycle club members or bikers, let's say, in the general term, but they don't even ride motorcycles. But you could say there's lots of people who go to motorcycle events in this country who are not active riding motorcycles, right? Who don't ride motorcycles themselves. That doesn't now they could be part of the motorcycle biker community, but you know, and some may call themselves bikers as well, but they're not actually riding as well. Now it could be that they're family members, wives, girlfriends, husbands, whatever, that kind of thing, that where the other person rides the bike and they're just the passenger or the pillion, or maybe they just come in their car because they've got all this other stuff to carry as well. So it's, again, what are you saying here? What part of I've met so-called bikers? What you mean? You've met people who are in motorcycle clubs that are not actively riding motorcycles. Is that more accurate, what you're trying to say? And they got a difference here, and they're basically going to different areas of the country, and they talk about some of the history as well. But here it talks about drugs and guns, and basically how motorcycle clubs came from the United States. This is all old news, so I'm not going to go on to that. It said outlaw biker gangs are highly active in certain fields of crime, mainly firearms and drug trafficking, vehicle theft, strong arm work, and extortion. They have been cited as a threat in British police intelligence reports for at least 30 years. Yeah, okay. Is that? Well, what's been done about it then? What has been done about it? If there had been a threat, what has been done about it? Yeah, okay. So, and have built strong, secretive international networks through close links with biker chapters or clubs in other countries around the world. What is it? Biker chapters or clubs? Or what is it? But they have never made a major impact in the organised crime scene in the UK, where powerful local criminals generally hold sway. Yeah, I mean, basically, I've talked about this in lots of time before, to say, well, just because you're in a motorcycle club or any kind of motorcycle club, right? The problem is that people have this vision of what motorcycle clubs are based upon what happens in the United States and maybe in Canada, maybe in other countries around the world, and Australia, for example. But when you have very tight laws, let's say in the UK, of what you can and cannot do, or what, let's say, firearms you're allowed to carry, or that kind of weapons you're allowed to carry, and the penalties that are associated with that if you do that, yes, you'll get people who don't care about what the law states or what the ramifications are if they get caught with that, or if they use those kinds of things. But at the same time, most don't. So it's a totally different bike, and look, don't listen to me. Go speak to somebody in a motorcycle club, and they will tell you that the motorcycle club scene in this country is different. It's totally different to what you're led to believe happens, especially something from the United States. It's a different thing. Motorcycling in general is a different thing, but motorcycle club scene is a different thing as well. They might wear the same colours, let's say. There's obviously going to be similarities, but in terms of the way they conduct themselves, it's different. Now, there is some truth here in this when they're basically saying that, they tend to, in the UK, they tend to keep it within within internal. It's club against club. It doesn't spill out into the public. And again, this is very misleading because it kind of lends itself to say, oh, these biker gangs, they're a real menace to society and everything like that. You say, well, actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. If you're not in that circle, you're never going to know anyway, because they tend to keep it in house, and it doesn't really happen. It doesn't really spill over. Because if it did, because of the nature of our society in this country and the laws we have, and such a very small country, you wouldn't stand for it. It wouldn't be stand for it, because you got, let's just say, and I've said this before, you got a group of bikers. Doesn't matter how many bikers you've got. Doesn't matter how many motorcycle club members you got. Doesn't matter how many chapters you got. Right? When you're dealing with a local community, and a local community who may have some clubs of their own, let's say, all of a sudden you wouldn't stick a chance. You wouldn't stick a chance. So you've got to work with your community, and the best way that the clubs operate in this country is keep below the radar. Yeah, because it just wouldn't happen if you got the biggest club in the world, let's say the police, right? If you get too high on the radar, then noticeable on the radar, you're going to get nicked straight away. You're going to get raided. So whilst they're saying here they've been on the police radar for 30 years, well, they might have been on the police radar for 30 years, but nothing's ever really been done about them as organisations, because they can't, because they haven't really proven to do anything wrong, really. Now, again, that doesn't mean that they're not involved in any criminality, or certain members aren't involved in criminality. But again, weak reporting here, unfortunately. Sorry, let me just say, Devon Dave, strangely, whenever I go to a bike meet, everyone is so nice, and the biking community does so much for the charity. There's always aspects of either side, right? I don't know. I'm not saying that I am involved in any circles or know anybody, that I have got any inner knowledge of what goes on in motorcycle clubs. I've never claimed that, and I don't mix in those circles, and it's just not for me. It's just not anything that's been part of my motorcycling world, as it were. But I do know people. I've spoken to people, at rallies or events in the past. I've good friends in the past have been in bike clubs and everything. So I kind of know it in a kind of observing point of view. And yeah, never had a crossword. It's been very nice. What I've found, if I go to motorcycle rallies, I don't often go, in all fairness, but every time I've gone, I was speaking to my friends and everything like that. I find that those people, those in motorcycle clubs, if they keep themselves to themselves. They don't tend to mix, unless you want to go over to them and say hello and all that sort of stuff, or they come over to you, or you're in a group. But I've been sat at tables with different motorcycle clubs there. We're just sort of chatting away, having a chinwag about different things as well. But, it's people are normal, right, aren't they? People are normal. They're just doing the thing. The problem is that people watch TV, or they get onto YouTube and they see what's going on in different parts of the world, or they see how other people act. And you think, well, there might be similarities, but it doesn't really work like that over here. And I think if they try to do something, no matter how much bravado, no matter how much they, somebody might say, oh no, we're the real deal over here. The problem is, you might be the real deal. I'm not saying you're not, but the problem is, if you try and exercise your right to show that you're the real deal, let's say, you really will get onto the radar of the police, and that's it. It's very short-lived. Dave B, I actually joined Hog when I bought my Harley. Never went to a single event. Me neither. I'm not really a motorcycle club sort of. I'm not really. I'm in a Hog aren't a club anyway. They're just I'm not sure what they are. Harley owners group, of course. But the problem is, people. There's no doubt that even before Sons of Anarchy, there's like the Facebook groups and the Facebook biker groups, and they all started coming up, and then Sons of Anarchy came on and all this other stuff, and it became very popular to become in a group, or start thinking you're in a group and you're as tough as everybody else. And you kind of look at people in hog groups and think, just behave yourself, mind yourself, mind your manners, that sort of stuff. Whereas for the most part, people who are in clubs, you can't, okay, this generalizing, you can't say for everybody, but I've never had an issue with them. And say I've seen people have issues with them, but I'm not saying that it's not undeserved, because of what I've seen. They've deserved it, and if they have, the thing is, people don't go up to other people, and just having a go at them unnecessarily. Or they don't go up to people and start having a go at them, and when the other person defends himself verbally and says, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do anything wrong, and then usually it ends there, but if somebody's just minding their own business and doing their own thing, whatever. So this kind of whole article here, and it just goes on, right? It goes on about the Plymouth guy as well, David Crawford, I think it was name was. It just goes into that story there as well. What was it? There's a guy here, Peter Walsh here. Peter Walsh explained that UK gangs, use these gangs again, are more occupied by fighting each other and will not focus on normal people. Well, okay, that's what I've just said, right? He said the worst violence is usually confined to internal feuds or conflicts between rival clubs rather than spilling over to endanger the public. And this is the key thing here, right? I want people to understand this. If it starts endangering the public or getting into, because you've got to think about this, right? You've got to think about this. If, let's say, any other person, right, or any club or any kind of entity, whatever it is, comes to you as an individual, normal member of the public, you're not involved in any of this sort of scene, right? You just get up, you go to work, you earn your money, you provide for your family, you ride your bike, you drive your cars, you go to the supermarket, you might go to the pub, you might go and watch a bit of football, you might talk about boxing, whatever it is, let's just say, right? You're doing your thing, and then all of a sudden they come and try and, let's just say I've got a shop. Let's say, for example, I've got a shop, whether it's a motorcycle shop or a sweet shop, it doesn't matter. And you get Hell's Angels or Bandidos or whatever. You get motorcycle clubs come in, and the worst of the worst, right? The worst of the worst. And they come in and they try and do a bit of mafia style, right? So the mafia style, they come in and they say, right, okay, we want to take some money off you every week. You're going to have to pay us protection. And you're like going, right, so you're coming in, you're threatening me, are you? Right, okay, right, fine. Most people, because this would never happen, right? And I'll tell you why it would never happen, right? Most people who are not in trouble with the police or not doing anything dodgy, most people would think, I'm under personal threat here. There are two ways to handle it. Either you can try and get yourself or friends to handle this yourselves, right? And that sometimes happens. Or, more likely, police, yeah, can you help me out here? These group from this people and done it, and they've come in, I don't know who they are, and they're threatening me, they're threatening mine. They come in with guns, they came in with knives, they're threatening. Guess what? The police love nothing more than responding to that kind of incident. They'd be like, yes. Especially if you want police, response, it's like, oh, I've just seen somebody with a gun, I've just seen, they come, packed. And they're coming en masse, that kind of thing. And the worst thing that a motorcycle club can do is draw attention to themselves, especially that. So this kind of thing where it spills over into normal people going about their normal business or shops or anything, it may happen in very small areas, or people who were involved in that community, who are desperate to get into that community, or they might be having some kind of association with that community, let's say with criminal elements within that community, and they're doing something criminal themselves. Do you know what I mean? That's the only reason there will be some kind of spilling over into the public. When I say public, people who are not directly in motorcycle clubs. Otherwise, that's the only reason. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. You go straight to the police, or you fend this off yourself. You get your built, your whole mate of builders or something. You get your whole mate of loads of mates who work with you on the oil rigs. You get your loads of mates who work with you in the factory. You get whatever. You get your loads of mates who are with you on the football terraces, whatever. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you're gonna have a bit of a tear up, or you're gonna go straight to the police. And I would always say go straight to the police. Let's not mess around here. But so they're trying to paint a picture that all of a sudden, it's this Wild West. It isn't. It is not for the public. Now, it might be internally, it might be something going on, but it's not for the public. And the problem is it's just generic reporting. They're just going on and showing, the problem is, and I'll tell you what it is. I'll just go right to the top here. The problem is that you have a couple of stories that come out recently, and that just fuels reporters to start writing stuff, and they start writing headlines. They start making stories of what they think goes on in the world. And they don't actually know. They think, okay, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, I've heard about this bike. I've heard of the Hells Angels. I've heard of Bandidos. I'm going to write an article. Let me Google what's going on. Biker gangs and everything like this. But they don't actually interview anything. There's no substantial reporting here. There's nothing concrete. Then they get somebody who says, well, you've got to ask yourself, why is somebody going to a rag top, going to somebody like the Sun newspaper here or online publication, and why are they spilling the beans of what goes on within a motorcycle club? Either they've got some mental issues, mental incapacity issues, whatever, or they're completely deluded, or they were just never in the club in the first place, or they're not part of these clubs. They may be part of a very small club somewhere, or they've been hard done by. What drive? This is a question you got to ask yourself. The credibility of the source, the research, the proper research from the reporter themselves, and this is the problem. This is the problem. You've got stories here, and these stories come out time and time again. And most of these stories associated with the United States or Australia or other parts of the world or Canada, occasionally they happen here. And you've got YouTube channels who just talk about this all the time. And the reason why I'm featuring this on this show today is not about what they're talking about. I'm more concerned about actually the way they're reporting it. I'm looking at it from a media and a journalistic point of view, which I'm not a journalist, but what I'm saying is I'm trying to look at it, and I'm just seeing holes, so many holes in what they've tried to write here. And that you've mixed up your descriptions, you mixed up your labels, you mixed up your sources. You haven't qualified your sources. You haven't put it up references of any other source material. You've quoted police reportings or police being on the hit list, as it were, from the police, but you haven't actually got anybody to go down on record to say that. So it's a really worthless piece of information. It's a worthless reporting. But hey, guess what? You put out a few pictures of you put a few pictures out in the article of people wearing their back patches like Hell's Angels here, and other stories. This is a picture here of just a funeral procession. You put let's sell my story a little bit more about putting a picture of somebody who's just lost their life. There we go. And then the picture of what he was wearing, and it's just like you've it's oh, let's put this on a dummy here, a shop dummy here as well, and it's just, and then you put the pictures of all those people who've been sent to prison as well. You put pictures of other people who've been involved in an accident, like a biker-related crash in Scotland. So basically, somebody come off their bike, and all of a sudden, it's part of the story as well. You know, you go, and here it says, look, Viking England, Hell's Angels bikers event. Well, where's you got the Vikings? Yeah, that's another motorcycle club, right? Apparently, but where are the Hell's Angels then? I can't see them in this picture unless they're further on as well. Okay, so right, that's another one. These are people who've just been. It's just poor reporting. It's just, and this is the one where the chap had lost his life. But this is like, again, you're putting up video footage of the guy who had dash cam footage of him doing it. I mean, how daft do you need to be? You know, I mean, it's just, I get it that there might be public interest here, but you're trying to create a story without substance. You're trying to create a story, a narrative, without actually providing any proof. So I could say, just by association, that motorcycle clubs are doing all sorts of things, all sorts of bad things. Oh God, involved in cocaine, or involved in speed, or involved in, you know, the heroin trade or whatever. They're involved in human trafficking. But you know, that's you just saying it. That's just you just saying something, you know, and it's labeling as well. And as I said, this comes back down to what I was saying before, that this country is a very small country. Yes, we're kind of big in certain respects, but still, it's a very small country. And the power of public interest, the power of the police, the power of the law in this country, regardless of where you're outlaws or not, or whatever, whether you're involved in criminality or not, and especially when you're high profile, right? Like this, right? Because motorcycle clubs, they wear their colours on the outside, right? So they're high profile, they're visible, right? If you're involved in criminal activity, and that, you just bring attention to your club, and it's so much more easy to bring attention to your club in our society than it is in other societies around the world, regardless of whether you think you're outlaw or not. And that's why, you know, there might be, you know, criminal activity, let's say other criminal families or criminal organizations within an area that keep all this in check. There might be something like that, and there might be working with each other in terms of, in that respect. But you're kind of not really linking up the dots here. You're not really giving anybody any information. And also, the biggest thing is, what you think you're going to write a little story here, or try and, you know, make lots of assumptions, and what you don't think that the police have, you know, would look at this as well, and look at this as whether it's a real threat or not. Come on. You know, I would have believed this a lot more if the reporter had got a statement from the National Crime Unit or the local police, the Met Police, the Greater Manchester Police, and everything like that. You know, or there was an active investigation going on with a motorcycle club in Manchester or Liverpool or the Northwest, or there was an ongoing issue, like a report of street violence, street gangs, you know, shoot-ups, that kind of thing. I would get it. I would certainly get that kind of reporting. I would understand it. I would understand the speculative kind of scaremongering, you know, trying to flame fan the flames a little bit. But there isn't really anything there to give this any substance. So, you know, I just think it's poor, very poor. It's like, you know, I'm not into motorcycle clubs. You know, it's not part of my, you know, I'll say hello to anybody. I'll, you know, be respectful to anybody, but I'm not going to give them respect because they they demand my respect. No, you know, because they don't give two hoots about you and I don't give two hoots about them. It's not part of my motorcycling world. I don't care, you know. But if I meet anybody, and this is anybody, regardless if you're in the club or not, and if you want to say hello and you want to be friendly to me, I'll be friendly to you. There's no problem with that whatsoever, you know. And I've always been that way, you know. I'll just go about my merry way, doing my merry thing, you know. I'll always try and be respectful and polite to anybody which I meet. But I'm also not the kind of person who's you know, going to start tapping people on the shoulder and say, "Oh, please be my friend. Please be my friend." You know, that's just not me. You know, I just don't do that. You know, so I don't necessarily need to be part of any group or anything like that. But also, you know, it's not. It's nothing that there's nothing in here in this story that tells me that there is an issue in this country. There isn't. If there's an issue, the one thing that I would say that they probably have got right in this article is that it's kept in house, that it's kept, you know, under wraps. It's kept within the scene. It's kept within themselves. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that's happening. But the source is a questionable source. But this has happened before. Excuse me, where reports have come out in press or in tabloid press, or from not only from this country, from around the world, and they quote somebody who's on the inside, or they quote somebody who, and you just think, what's this source? What has this gone? What's the real reason? You know, and the problem is they don't write a retraction afterwards, or they don't start saying, "Oh, this is, you know, this is what we wrote there was inaccurate," or the person had some mental health issues, and this is the reason why we've caused this, and so on and so forth. You know, they never write a retraction. But, you know, at the same time, you know, people, now I'm sure people who are in motorcycle clubs, they look at this, or they might even see a head, or they might even watch this video, or watch this live show, right? And they're probably thinking, first of all, they look at it and they go, okay, somebody's got a title of this, let's just watch this. They're going to skip forward all the news stuff until this point. Then they're going to watch this, and then they're going to see, okay, so he's actually criticising the report, not criticising that. So most people will look at this and go, within in the clubs, and think, well, what's all this nonsense about? It's all rubbish again. It's all stupidity again. Now, again, you can't say that none of this is 100% inaccurate in terms of the kind of people that may be in a motorcycle club. But as I say, it's the same thing about saying the same people who may go to church on a Sunday. They're not all, you know, fine, upstanding members of the community. You know, it's the same people who are in a knitting circle or a WI or in a squash club, in a football club, rugby club. You know, people are going down the pub. You get all sorts of walks of life, don't you? The thing is, with these motorcycle clubs, there is a vetting process, you know, with that prospect and everything, to make sure that you are bona fide to be in that group. And there has been, obviously in the United States, a big thing, but and certainly this has raised the profile from law enforcement agencies to view clubs, especially these big outlaw clubs, as gangs in terms of criminality, because of the frequency of people involved in criminal activity who are also parts of these motorcycle clubs. That's the reason why it elevates it up to that kind of scrutiny. But it just because it happens like that in certain parts of the world, or in certain states, or historically it's happened, it doesn't mean it happens all the time. You get all sorts of people in motorcycle clubs, or in any kind of club, right, from all different walks of life. And if they satisfy the entry requirements into that club for whatever reason, they can still be doing whatever they're doing as their daily job, as long as they commit to the club, right? And as long as they commit to the creed, or whatever it is, the mission statement, as it were, of that club. So you could be a doctor, a lawyer, pilot, you know, airline pilot, whatever. Yeah, they've all been part of big motorcycle clubs. They still are. crikey, you know, you even get police, law enforcement, you know, they've got their own motorcycle clubs. And some of them are ridiculous things. They call themselves outlaw motorcycle clubs. How can you be an outlaw motorcycle club if you're part of the police? Whatever. You know, and it's just, I mean, but some of the police have also got in trouble with being in their own motorcycle clubs as well. It's just that way, you know, it's a conflict of interest, you know, and all that sort of stuff. So it's, but, you know, it does happen. You know, there is this kind of thing that wanting to be in a club, that's fine. Be in a club, be with your friends, be with your whatever. But again, you know, this poor reporting like this lends itself to inaccurate stereotypes. And inaccurate stereotypes lends itself to, you know, people believing the hype or believing what they see on the TV or believing they watch a fictional program like The Sons of Anarchy, like Mayans, like, or they watch a movie and they think, wow, this happens in real life. And you can forgive people, let's say kids, you know, 14, 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, you know, into their teens who watch something and think, wow, that's believable. But you can't forgive adults who watch this and you think, you know, this is not real, right? And they go, oh yeah, I knew that, but secretly they thought it was real. Come on, you can't forgive that because that's just silly. That's just, you know, you're just being silly, you know. And I always say this. I say this exactly the same thing, right? Because I come from a biker world, but also come from a football world as well. It's just like, okay, you know, people who go and watch football, not every football fan is a football hooligan, right? And you can get somebody who's just as steadfast in their loyalty to that club or supporting that club and being vitriolic and being aggressive in the stands and so verbally, but they draw the line at actually being physical and being a hooligan, right? They draw the line. They just don't know. So it's exactly the same in any walk of life, in a motorcycle club or whatever. You know, you got different people who would be steadfast loyal to those colours, those club colours, let's say in motorcycle, football colours, whatever it is. But, you know, that's it. They draw the line at taking it any further, you know, being involved in fights or anything like that. You know, and it's exactly the same. Exactly the same there. I think I've harped on for long enough, haven't I? Crikey. Well, let us know what you think about this if you're watching this later on and everything like that. As I say, I think this whole live show, I really wanted to do this live show to just highlight not where I'm getting the stories from, but you know, for the general motorcycle news, but also the stories from sometimes how they can be misleading, how the titles can be misleading, how sometimes the titles are one way, you think the story is going to be about something, you start asking questions before you actually start reading the story, then you read the story and sometimes it answers it, but in a slightly different way. And then sometimes you're reading this, you know, you get a headline like this from, you know, a particular publication, and you end up kind of banging your head against the palm, as it were, because you're thinking, well, what is all this about? What's all nonsense about? You know. But there we go. Anyway, listen. All I can say is, let me just get rid of that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in the chat. I really do appreciate that. It's always nice. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. So I've got this studio system which is all doing that. I may come on a little bit later on, or I may come on tomorrow. I may come on tomorrow night as well. I'll see what the stories are. I'll see what the general chat is. I may do a night session tomorrow night. I'll see how it goes. I'll see how it goes with what's going on in the biking world. I'm off to ride an Indian tomorrow, unless something dramatically happens. I don't really want to do motorcycle reviews, and the thing is, you know, it's not a new bike, so why would I do a motorcycle review? I may just do a quick, show and tell type thing of it. I don't know. I'm really really looking forward to going and ride it, I've got to say, just to see what it is. But, I never want to say too much about these things, because sometimes when you get to a place, you think, well, I've just come this way to do this, and it's not as you thought it was going to be, if you know what I mean. So I'll see how I feel. So really interested in riding it, see what it's like. So I've got some hookups with a few companies now that we're trying to see if it will work for the future, in terms of products, in terms of bikes, in terms of other non-motorcycle related stuff as well. So and that's going to be an ongoing process for this year as well. The website is still ongoing. As I say, there's lots of lots of blog posts there, lots of new news stories, and everything like that. I say it really depends. Some people won't, because it's a lot of varied content on there in terms of the blog posts. It's not about Harley Davidson. It's not about Indian. It's not in terms of only. It's about all manufacturers, all news, and it's only interesting stories which I think are interesting as well, or of noteworthy. And they're all pushed out along the social media channels as well, so you'll be able to catch them on there as well. But there we go. Right, well, I think that's it for today. How long have we been on? Crikey, two and a bit hours. That's more time than I ever thought I'd be on here for. But all I can say is, well, it's been emotional. Thanks for watching, Morris. Thanks very much. Thanks to Dave, Debenham Dave, and everybody else who's come on and watched. And if you're watching later, hey, let us know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts about this kind of reporting. And I think sometimes, where I look at it from this point of view, I do this live show primarily, one, to speak directly to you guys. You can ask questions in real time, and I like just answering in real time, as opposed to just trying to go into comments and everything like that. So that's why I like doing live shows. The other thing is I like to try and bring news stories and from where I'm seeing on my press feeds and my a lot of the press releases that are sent to me as a kind of media outlet, as it were, and sharing those with you as well, direct. So that's one of the other reasons to do that. But one of the other reasons as well, as I say, I like bringing this sort of stuff so I can discuss with you news stories or publications and media outlets and how they're reporting this stuff as well. So it's not only to show you where I'm getting these stories from, but also to talk about, what do their stories hold any water. It's kind of critically assessing what's going on out there as well. But hopefully you find it useful or entertaining at least. But anyway, listen, all I can say, it's been emotional, and I'll catch you again on another live show, well, coming soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow night. Keep your ears peeled. Ta-da.